Alright, February the 6th until the 10th, let's see what physical releases we have this week, and I'm also going to do a good old upcoming import section to whet your appetite about the future. Let's get into it. Let's play curling! Those are not my exclamation marks, the game is just excited to be here, at least for North Americans. Remember last year when I was ironically/unironically excited for an entire game dedicated to curling when it released in Japan? I thought there was no chance it would get a Western release, but then I remembered Canadians. You love all that stone throwing, ice polishing, and yes, this looks mightily like some shovelware, but how often does a curling game come along? Almost never. Cue Nintendo announcing Mario Superstar Curling Adventures in the next Direct. And our executive producer, Issa, has chosen this as his pick of the week. Must be Canadian. And if you are in North America and you want to pick this up or any of the retail games shown in this episode, please check the link in the description and the pinned comment. You can buy from Video Games Plus and support us at the same time. Remember, they have free shipping over $80 Canadian, and standard shipping is pretty cheap to the US as well, and they're just a great company. Anyone who buys something with our links in the description, each week they will be put into a draw to win a $10 discount code, and this week's winner is Chris G. Congratulations, you will get an email from VGP with your coupon very soon. Thank you for your support. 8 Doors, ARUM'S Afterlife adventure is releasing in North America this week, thanks to Video Games Plus. I've mentioned this before for its Red Art Games pre-order last year, but if you've forgotten, it's a stylish looking Metroidvania inspired by Korean folklore. The story of this one involves a brave girl entering the afterlife in search of her father's lost soul in purgatory. Good daughter. The only thing I've helped my dad find is keys in his pocket when he's too drunk to get them out himself. Never put your hands in another man's pocket. You'll probably grab more than you anticipate. You are asking for trouble, and our executive producers Instacritic and Alex M have chosen this as their pick of the week. Which, on the Holy Night, sneaked out last week in North America. Yeah, I was told this was pushed back to February, but it seems there's been some earlier than expected dispatches, which is great news all round. I'm just shocked this is actually getting a physical release in the West. This is a visual novel from Type Moon, and it's their first to be officially translated into English. So if you're hoping that they'll eventually do Tsukihime, you're probably going to want to support this. Don't worry, it's supposed to be very high quality as well. And our executive producers Jennifer M, Robotech and Viz have chosen this as their pick of the week. Alright, The Low Prince. Catmaze is Red Hot Games' latest pre-order, and they're really doing a spiffing job with their game choices recently. Catmaze may sound like a Pac-Man knockoff one may have found on the Atari 2600, but don't be fooled because it's a Metroidvania, and a really nice looking one at that. Very cute, very catful. The game's description makes literally zero sense in English, but the gameplay looks like a lot of cute fun. About 7 to 8 hours worth of using familiars as your battle aids. Looks really nice, nice artwork too. If you're in Europe, check out reddartgames.com, click the link in the description to help support us, and also get 10% off yourself with the code SWATCH10. If you're in North America, VGP will carry some EU copies, and links are below for that too. Thanks for your support. And our executive producer, Totally Grateful, has chosen this as his pick of the week. Xtreme Sports is going up for pre-order this week at Limited Run Games. This is a Game Boy Color game called Xtreme Sports, so you'd think it would just be a cheap cash grab, but actually it's supposed to be a bit of a hidden gem on the system. There's nothing quite as extreme as skateboarding at 10 frames per second. Now that is totally rad. And of course this is by Way Forward, so Limited Run have to do the physical for it, and only they would charge $35 for it. Good luck. I'm not sure where Limited Run and Way Forward can go from here. I think they've drained their entire catalogue of non-licensed tie-ins. RWBY Arrowfell is Limited Run's second game this week, perhaps a tad bigger than Xtreme Sports. This, I believe, is the second RWBY game on the Switch. They previously did a multiplayer hack and slash one which was heavily online. However, this is more my style, a Metroidvania game made by Way Forward. Of course. To be fair though, it didn't get stellar reviews. It seems that every publication was contractually obliged to give it a 6 out of 10, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with 6 out of 10 games, aside from the reasons why it got knocked down to a 6 out of 10. But, you know, you can have fun with a 6 out of 10 game. In fact, most of my favorite games are 6 out of 10 games. And our executive producers Cartoon Soren and Thorn Metal Lunar have chosen this as their pick of the week. Before we get into the import section, I've got to do my shameless plug once again. A bit more Jordan. Yes, because this weekend, on the YouTube channel, you will see my Parasite Eve retrospective. 1 hour, 40-ish minutes of me talking about this horror JRPG cinematic action game. It's a very unique experience and I like it a lot. Of course, it will be on my Patreon a bit earlier. I'm hoping like Wednesday. And yeah, it's a video I'm a little bit not so proud of, / quite a bit proud of, because the humor, yeah, it's a bit different. Usually, my jokes come from what the game gives to me, and the game just gave me a lot of knob jokes. So yeah, if you like a knob joke or two, or a dozen, it might be the video for you. So yeah, I'll see you on my Patreon in the middle of the week, or on YouTube at the weekend. Let's go into the imports. We're heading into Play Asia territory. Yes, if you want to import any game shown here, then please consider using our Play Asia links below. Play Asia will always be the #1 way to support us, and thank you ever so much. If you click our link, we earn a nice bit of cash, and it makes this series actually sustainable. Plus, in return, if you click our link, you can get a tasty 5% off with our code SWTV23. SWTV23. It does not roll off the tongue, but that's the code that'll get you 5% off any physical item from Play Asia. Alright, this week we've got beautiful Desolation, releasing in Asian regions this week with English on the cartridge. Seems to be an import exclusive, no Western physical as of yet. I don't know much about this game aside from its brilliant name. If my entire being was summed up into one game title, it would be Beautiful, Beautiful Desolation, because I don't need anybody in life. I just need me, my wife, my daughter, and you 10,000 people watching each week. But aside from that, humanity and society can get in the bin. I'm all about that desolation. Anyways, this looks like an old school PC RPG, just without the RPG. It's more of an adventure game, and I heard the Switch port isn't the best, at least when it originally released, but maybe there's been some patches that have helped out, I don't know. But it does look kind of lovely. I think the closest comparison would be Disco Elysium, but found in a brown paper bag next to a homeless dude. I want it though, and our executive producers Parsnip Coffee, Precision Plague, Brent McLean, they want it too. It's their pick of the week. The Red Colony Trilogy should be sent out this week from Play Asia. Maybe a touch and go. It might bleed into next week, but I'll mention it now. This is a schlocky collection of schlocky games. It's like we're in an 80s exploitation movie, and what a time it is. 3 pervy survival horror games that look like they were made using one hand, because the other hand was busy doing something else. Dirty buggers. Red Colony 1, 2, 3 are games that look bad, but from reviews I've seen they're supposed to be actually fairly decent, as long as your girlfriend doesn't walk past the room while you're playing. Otherwise you'll be penciled in for one of those conversations again. I mean, I told my wife I do it because I get paid for it, but she's still worried about me. And our executive producers Ozgolo, Vey, and God of Resin have chosen this as their pick of the week. And that's really it for this week, but it's time to bring out the upcoming import segment as well, because there's been some nice new announcements, as well as to remind you about the tasty imports you can get your hands on this year. I'm not going to dwell on them too long, at least the ones I've mentioned before. Just remember, these are not out this week. These are future releases. So many people seem to miss that part. It serves me right for putting in timestamps. Anyways, Sixtar Gate Startrail is a cool looking hardcore rhythm game. It's the falling notes kind, which I suck at with a controller, but hopefully there's touch controls as well. I definitely want to give this a spin. I love rhythm games. I've been playing a rather huge upcoming one at the minute, and I am in the mood. There is a standard and collector's edition, which looks like it came back in stock. They did stop selling them for a time. Kizuna AI Touch the Beach. Touch the beach? No, touch the beat. Although I would like to touch the beach. Is another rhythm game I'm really excited about. Now, Play Asia does not state if this has English or not, but Amazon Japan says it will. This was originally a VR rhythm game like Saber Beats, but this new version includes a non-VR mode, which will be interesting to see. There's a standard and collector's edition available, although that is rather pricey for what you get. Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is a remaster of a once Wii exclusive Japanese release, and while this is getting an English release, finally after a decade, it will only be digital in the West. But the Asian version looks like it will be getting English, hopefully on the cartridge this time. Yeah, definitely excited for this one in the spooky month of March. SD Shin Kamen Rider Rumble is an adorable looking beat 'em up starring super deformed versions of the Kamen Riders. I guess the resurgence of this genre is starting to hit the big publishers. Bandai has noticed, and this looks great. It's obviously on a budget because the physical release is like $25. It's unknown if the Japanese version has English or not, but there will be a Southeast Asian version available that will have English. Sadly, it's not available for order right at this minute. I don't know what they're waiting for. Serial Cleaners is the sequel to Serial Cleaner. This is a stealth game where you try and clean up the crime scene. I played the first game, so that's the premise I'm going off. I'm not sure how the sequel evolves that formula, but I did enjoy the first game, so yeah, interested in this. Sainan Tantei Saga is coming in March. This is a visual novel of sorts that does have English. It mixes comedy and horror, and still waiting on the trailer to get a full grasp of it, but there's a standard edition which seems to be sold out already, and there's a deluxe edition which includes a soundtrack CD as well as a novel which will be in Chinese. Castle of Shikigami 2 is an old Ash shooter from the very early 2000s, but that doesn't mean we're not excited for a chance to buy this physically once more, now on the Switch. Vertical shooting goodness, now with plenty of tweaks and additions to make it even more worthwhile, and it's nicely affordable as well. Mugen Souls is getting a physical release thanks to East Asia Soft and Play Asia. The Switch physical now has content that has never been in English before. There's no censoring. I'm excited about this, and there's going to be a standard as well as a collector's edition. This is probably going to be their biggest title in a long while. But they also have Sea Horizon, a game I reviewed, a roguelike RPG dungeon crawler, plenty of different job types. It has a lot going for it, perhaps a tad repetitive, but it does have quite a lot to offer, and I've been told this will be shipping in 1 to 2 weeks time, so you won't have to wait too long. Omen of Sorrow has been a long time coming. It went on sale a while back, but kept getting delayed, mainly because they hadn't finished developing this version yet. This is the definitive edition of the game and includes more story elements, fighters, among some other tweaks, and again there's a standard and collector's edition available. RWBY is getting a physical release in Japan next year. This is actually an RPG Maker game, but it's one that supposedly elevates itself above the norm. Same as like how To the Moon did. It's a weird horror themed game that I'm interested in trying. The art style is interesting, and I always like to see how developers can step away from the usual RPG generic feeling. There's a really cheap standard edition and also a collector's edition, which is also really cheap as well. Osman is an arcade action platformer made as a spiritual successor to the Strider series, which you can clearly see, it looks just like Strider. This has been handled in Europe by Strictly Limited Games under its Western name, Canon Dancer, which is admittedly much better. But if you missed that, this is an alternative. I'm not 100% certain if there's going to be English or not. We had Kemco RPG Selection Volume 1 a few years back, but despite the PS4 getting 10 volumes, the Switch versions went silent. Until now! Cheap-ass JRPG fans celebrate because not only are we getting Volume 2 next week, but Volume 3 is coming in April. 8 games over 2 cartridges. Together, we're getting no, my autocorrect's changed that. My autocorrect says Frank Dragon's Odyssey, I'm guessing it's not Frank. Sephirothic Stories, As Divine Dios, Illusions of Elphasia, As Divine Hearts 2, Revenant Dogma, Fern's Gates, Fern's Gully, whatever. Alvasti Chronicle, yeah, that's a lot of games. Melon Journey, better than Journey to the West, better than Journey to the Center of the Earth, better than An Unexpected Journey, we have Melon Journey. This is an adventure game, looks like a Game Boy game, looks cool, and in fact the collector's edition of this game comes with an actual Game Boy game on a Game Boy cartridge. Sadly, unlike the Switch game, there's no English on that Game Boy one. If you want the English Game Boy game, you have to buy it from Limited Run for $45. Akai Ito and Aoi Shiro is a double pack of visual novels, fairly old, but these are remakes that are surprisingly going to be in English for the first time. Apparently these are horror VNs, look nice. Weirdly, Play Asia is only carrying a special edition, which is rather expensive, and comes with drama CDs, which will be no use to as non-Japanese speakers. We'll have to see if there's a standard edition happening or not. Dawn of the Monsters is getting a physical release in Japan. You may remember Limited Run did this quite a while ago, but if you missed it, then this is a really nice option. It's a kaiju beat 'em up made by 13am Games, so it's going to be a good time. Buccaneer is releasing in Japan in April and will have English language options according to the Twitter page. They replied to someone and said it will have English, which is great news because I was not expecting that. This is a real-time strategy game, a bit like Waterworld, the movie, as everyone is on boats, but with cute anime girls, so that's a winner all round. Why didn't Waterworld cast anime girls in that movie? It definitely wouldn't have flopped if it did. Hatena no To, The Tower of Children, is a card game inspired by the likes of Slay the Spire, releasing in April. It does have a budgeted look about it, but we'll have to see when it releases. There is a standard edition as well as a collector's edition, which includes an actual board game. Ray's Arcade Chronology is a pack of arcade shooters from Taito. Yeah, Strictly Limited Games are handling this in Europe, but if you missed that, then the Japanese version will be the way to go. A handful of really great shooters handled by M2, published by Taito. The Asian version is confirmed to have English, but still waiting on confirmation of the Japanese version. There will be a standard and collector's edition. Trouble Witches Final Episode 1 Daughters of Amalgam is another shooter. This one is of the cute variety. This has been confirmed to have English finally, and I'm really interested in seeing what it's all about. Looks like crazy colourful fun, but it's going to be a long wait until July. Speaking of shooters, Telenet Shooting Collection. This contains 4 old school shooters, Granada, Avenger, Gyres, and Psychic Storm from the Mega Drive and PC Engine. Looks really nice, not sure how good these ones are since I've never heard of them, and we don't know if English is on here or not. My guess is no, due to the company, but is that really an issue? There is a standard and collector's edition. The Crimson Flower That Divides Lunar Coupling is a fairly old Otomi VN that was on the PSP. It's getting its English translation next week. Yeah, it's coming next week. I don't really know much about this, but maybe we'll do a review on VN Paradise if I start that channel again. I don't know. Deadcraft is getting a physical release in Hong Kong next week with English. This is a survival horror action game. Plant your crops, craft your weapons, fight off the undead. This looks pretty bonkers, if I'm being honest, and I see flamethrowers, so I am sold. One Print Games have a couple of games coming this year at least. The ones we know about are Skyrocket, a block-breaking shooter mashup, and Slap City, a Smash Bros type game that is very highly rated indeed. You can pre-order these right now in a bundle, but if you want them individually, you'll have to hold on just a little bit. The Legend of Tianding is releasing in Hong Kong in a couple of weeks' time. This is an adventure style game, but there's also fighting in here as well. Looks pretty stylish, if I may say so. And this must have passed me by when it released digitally, because with a name like that, it's got my attention. Drainus is getting a physical release in Japan. Yeah, Strictly Limited did this in Europe, but if you missed that, then, and you're in the future, then the Japanese version may be the way to go. I've heard it's very, very, very good as a shooter, despite the horrendous name. The limited edition is reasonably priced and has some nice things, cheaper than Strictly. A quick shout out to A Space For The Unbound. This already released in Japan physically, but the Asian version is due for some time soon, which is great because I know a lot of people were disappointed the Japanese version sold out so quickly. Well, this is your chance, and get it because it's a great game. Don't miss it. Check out my review. I also have to mention Grim Guardian's Demon Purge. Last week's episode, I used the footage for this game to close the video out. I did it as a little tease for the upcoming imports video that I was planning, and so many people asked me, what's that game? What's that game? At that point, it was an import exclusive. I was just teasing you a little bit. But just afterwards, it was announced for a Western physical release. Yay! And even though it's Intercreates, not by a limited run. Yay! Retail release, both in Europe and North America. So yeah, if you want to pre-order that, the Western release, links are below. Be my guest. Thank you. Alright, the community spotlight, but first me, okay? I've got something rather spiffing to show off to you. Picks and love really liked my unboxing of their Young Souls Collector's Edition, so they sent me something else to show off to you guys. This absolute unit is the Windjammers Flying Power Edition, exclusive to their website. Before we delve into what's inside, I need to tell you just how heavy and solid and compact this bad boy is, and I think the secondary selling point is as a home defense weapon. Who needs the right to bear arms when you have the right to bear this Windjammers Collector's Edition? Intruders will not know what's coming. So inside this you get both the original Windjammers, Windjammers 1, and the unexpected sequel, Windjammers 2, on 2 separate cartridges. It's presented in a very appealing way, each one having its own arcade style box. I love these games even though I'm utterly terrible at them. They are super addictive and great competitive games if you've got friends over. And aside from the games, you also get a hardcover art book, which in itself is a bit of a beast. Bright and colourful, it has interviews and such, and the printing quality is really good. Something very nice to flick through. You also get a soundtrack CD for both games. It's awesome because the music is awesome, as you would expect. Why wouldn't it be? Each game has a manual so you can find out the reasons why you suck at it, and preferably how not to be so sucky at it. There's even a bunch of art cards, so many art cards, double-sided as well, and best of all, a frisbee, which saves me a trip to Decathlon because I've been meaning to get one of these for, when the spring comes. As I say, this is an absolute beast of an edition. It feels valuable, and there's not a cheap pink mustache in sight. But man, this box is pink. This is the hottest pink I've ever seen, and I love it. And if you want it, then it's exclusive to Pix and Love's website. There is a link in the description. It's not an affiliate or anything, but yeah, they only made 1,500 units of this, so I can't imagine there are too many left. They do have other editions as well, some cheaper ones if this is above your budget. Go check it and have a look. Alright, onto you lot, just a quickie though. Executive producer Instacritic sent in this photo showing off some interesting games. My daughter recently saw the SpongeBob game, like on the news notes. You know when you wake up, you switch from sleep and it has some like news stuff on the side? Yeah, she saw SpongeBob there and she's decided that is the next game she wants. Lord help me. Nihongo Gamer sent in this photo showing off the Divine Edition of Fire Emblem Engage. So huge! Nintendo do a pretty decent job with their CEs. Chewit sent in this photo showing off a bunch of games, many from Strictly Limited, many of their less remembered titles. I mean, who the hell remembers Rising Hell? Not me. Asim sent in this photo showing off some of the Switch's biggest hitters. Who's excited for Breath of the Wild 2? Or whatever it's called, I'm really excited for it. Executive producer Cartoon Soren showed off this obscure European exclusive, Yono and the Celestial Elephants. I had that one myself somewhere in the UK, or is it here in China? I don't remember. Executive producer God of Resin got in these games, picked up Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle for a very reasonable price from Video Games Plus when they did their reprints. I hope you all didn't miss it because, yeah, people kind of ask for hundreds of dollars for this on eBay these days. Executive producer Robotech sent in this photo with a big bunch of imports. Thank you ever so much for the support. Something as super obscure as The Fox Awaits Me. I could have sworn that was sold out with no chance of returning, but hey, here it is. Executive producer Alex M sent in this photo showing off some really great releases. Again, a lot of imports. I think I'm a bad influence on you guys. But one that's not an import, Citus Alpha. Well, I don't think it released in Europe, but a very interesting rhythm game nonetheless. Sojan sent in this photo showing off a couple of great beat-em-ups and Dragon Quest treasures. I really need to get that someday. Square Enix have been on fire recently, at least with things that I've been paying attention to. I know there's a lot of bad news in the news, but I don't care, I'm just enjoying their games. Art Phoenix Assorted sent in this photo showing off pretty much every single variation of Cotton out there on the Switch. That is some dedication to the little witch. Executive producer Punkiducer, thanks so much for the support on some of these, so using our Play Asia links. Big up the Dead or Alive Extreme 3. Despite me not giving that game much of like time of day when I reviewed it, it's kind of weird that, every now and again I just get a really big itch to go and play it. Burai Murian sent in this photo showing off the very Witch on the Holy Night that I talked about, the collector's edition. Or maybe it's the only edition. I don't think there is a standard edition. But anyway, it's rather large, looks great, and yeah. Needless Dragon sent in this photo showing off 2 nice action games. I actually have Gunborg and I was planning on showing off sometime in the next few weeks. Our man in Japan, executive producer Vei, sent in these games showing off Yuden Chronicle Rising, which came with a bonus soundtrack. I believe the Red Art Games version will as well, as long as you pre-order it before a certain date. Not entirely sure about that though, but it would be nice. Who doesn't love free CDs? Marquis sent in this photo showing off 2 lovely imports, Chrono Cross. You know, one day I will get to that on a bit more, Jordan, where I can really let my true feelings come out. The problem with doing reviews for deadlines like on Switch Watch is that you rarely get the chance to mull on it more, to consider it. But you know, thoroughly analyzing them with big essay things, it really makes me appreciate the games a whole lot more. Alright, let's have a roundup. Stephen Scott, Manji, Ilandara, Diesel JT, McLaren, Randolph Orr, Mickey McFlynn, For Retro's Sake, Starvey, Bunny Bear, Radio to Rancid, Drew, Pabs. Alright, send me pictures on Twitter at SoWhatAboutGame. You can DM me or try to tag me in a post. We have an email address, switchwatchspotlight@gmail.com, and our Discord, the server link is probably below. You can submit your pictures there in the submission section. Only send me 1 picture per week, guys, okay? Alright, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Get Physical. Special thanks to our executive producers Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, Boombox, Brent McLean, Santa Tartaruga, Alexander Cato, JCrowd7776, Punky Dooster, Cartoon Soren, Robotech, Z, Raven Knight, Thorn Metal Lunar, Parsnip Coffee, Issa, Vey, Mental Traveler, Grant Cert, Viz, Jennifer M, Instacritic, Precision Plague, Kadacha, Hozgolo, Totally Grateful, Alex M. Thank you for your support, plus you watching right now. Yes, if you watched all the way through, then I want to know who you are. Please leave me a curling emoji in the comments because yes, there is a curling emoji out there. Believe that if you will, but there is, just look. It might take you a while to find it. But yeah, please go to A Bit More Jordan on Friday nights or maybe Saturday. Yeah, it'll be there. Or if you want it early, you can look at my Patreon. I'm sure you know what it is. Yeah, anyway, take care. Bye-bye.